Well, it has been an incredibly emotional afternoon for Mia, a former personal assistant to Sean Combs, who is not using her real name to preserve her identity. She has been dressed in all white. She has barely looked up the entire day. You've just been able to see the top of her head. At times, it has been so difficult to get her words out that she's had to take deep breaths and small, quiet breaks before she's been even able to get a sentence out. For
David and Lauren, prosecutors allege that Sean Diddy Combs used his power and his money to run a criminal enterprise and coerce women into sex. And they're hoping that witnesses who were once in his inner circle will help prove that.
In a high-profile court case involving music mogul Diddy, a woman using the alias Mia took the stand with chilling allegations. Given full anonymity by the judge, Mia's identity and even her physical appearance are completely shielded. Any attempts to reveal her could lead to serious consequences. Mia testified that she once worked as Diddy's assistant and endured horrifying abuse during that time. She claimed he repeatedly raped and sexually assaulted her, often using extreme violence and threats to keep her silent. One of the most disturbing parts of her testimony involved Diddy allegedly threatening to steal her phone and use its contents. To blackmail her, an intimidation tactic that echoes what another woman, Cassie, described in her own account. Mia and Cassie's stories overlap in striking ways, especially in one incident they both describe, a flight from France where Diddy allegedly threatened to release a freak-off video of Cassie if she didn't obey him.
Other incidents that we heard from her, another one that happened at his LA house where she was packing him for a trip, sitting on his closet floor, and suddenly everybody was gone and she had another encounter with him. She is still on the stand right now. She's going to be back on the stand tomorrow as they finish direct examination and then cross-examination.
These testimonies seem to support the charges around sex trafficking specifically, transporting women across borders for sex through force or coercion. However, when it comes to the broader racketeering charges, things get more complicated. Racketeering implies organized, calculated criminal activity, something more like what's seen in mafia-type operations. Think of the explosive accusation that Diddy ordered Kid Cudi's car to be blown up, or allegedly had his home broken into. That's the kind of behavior prosecutors are trying to tie together under the racketeering umbrella. The challenge? Some legal experts and observers are skeptical. They question whether the evidence actually adds up to organized crime or just paints a picture of a violent, manipulative man, and how the cases being presented could be making things even harder for the jury to follow. Instead of grouping similar witnesses together, like hearing all sex trafficking testimonies first and then moving into potential racketeering cases, the prosecution is jumping back and forth between topics. Critics say this scattershot approach could confuse jurors and weaken the overall narrative, making it harder to see how everything fits under the racketeering charge. In short, while Mia's testimony adds serious weight to the sex trafficking accusations, it remains to be seen if prosecutors can convince a jury that all these disturbing events are part of a larger organized criminal enterprise. Next up on the witness stand was Deonte, a former stylist who worked closely with both Diddy and Cassie. His testimony brought a new angle to the case, one the defense eagerly used to challenge the prosecution's portrayal of Cassie as a powerless victim trapped in an abusive relationship. Until now, Cassie's connection with actor Michael B. Jordan was generally believed to be minimal and just crossing paths on a movie set. But Deonte claimed he personally introduced them, implying their relationship may have been more intentional than accidental. He also dropped another name, an NFL player named Andre Grant, saying Cassie was romantically involved with him as well. Why does this matter? The defense seized on it. Their argument: if Cassie was truly under Diddy's psychological control, suffering from Stockholm Syndrome, as a court-appointed psychologist had claimed, how was she maintaining relationships with other men? They're trying to dismantle the image of Cassie as someone who was completely trapped and helpless. It's not just about the relationships either. The defense is using Deonte's testimony to build a broader narrative that paints Cassie in a very different light. For example, Deonte reportedly said that Cassie wasn't exactly a standout singer, suggesting she may not have had much of a music career without Diddy's backing. This adds weight to the idea that she may have stayed with him, not purely out of fear or coercion, but because she saw tangible benefits in doing so.
The defense questioning Nash's recollection about certain incidents, including that alleged bloody beating. And when Nash testified that Combs controlled everything about Ventura's appearance, defense attorneys suggested it was a business decision rather than an element of coercion. Combs' team has conceded that he was abusive, but that the violence was due to drugs and jealousy, and not about him forcing her into sex.
Then came the line that really caught attention. Who am I going to get next? Jay-Z is taken. According to Deonte, this was a comment Cassie made, which the defense presented as a glimpse into her mindset, strategic, maybe even opportunistic. The implication? That Cassie might have been looking to climb the industry ladder by aligning herself with powerful men, and Diddy was part of that plan. The defense's goal is clear. They want to introduce enough doubt to shake the prosecution's narrative. By showing that Cassie may have had some degree of agency and personal ambition, they're challenging the idea that she was entirely under Diddy's control. Now, this doesn't erase or excuse the serious allegations she's made, but in the courtroom, perception is powerful. The defense is trying to sway the jury by complicating the image of Cassie as solely a victim. Instead, they're suggesting she may have had her own motivations for staying in the relationship, and that those motivations weren't just about fear, but possibly fame and career advancement. Ultimately, Deonte's testimony adds layers to an already complex case. For the jury, it's now a matter of deciding whether these details are enough to undermine the prosecution's claims of abuse and psychological control, or if they're simply noise meant to distract from a deeper, more troubling reality. One of the big questions hanging over the trial now is whether Diddy will take the stand in his own defense. His lead attorney once hinted in a documentary that it might be hard to stop him from testifying. But in reality, the chances of that happening are slim. Why? Because testifying comes with serious risks, especially with a skilled and relentless prosecutor like Comey waiting to tear apart every word. Even if Diddy feels strongly about speaking up, his experienced legal team will likely convince him to stay seated. It's a high-stakes case, and in trials like this, most defendants avoid testifying for a reason. One wrong answer could shift the whole case. So, while the idea might still be floating around, most legal experts believe Diddy won't actually take the stand. Meanwhile, the courtroom continues to unravel the complex layers of Diddy and Cassie's relationship. The prosecution is portraying Cassie as someone deeply controlled by Diddy, unable to leave even when she physically could. What they claim is a classic case of Stockholm Syndrome. A psychological expert even backed this view, suggesting Cassie was mentally trapped. But the defense is pushing back hard on that narrative. They're trying to show the jury a different version of events, one where Cassie wasn't as powerless as she's being portrayed. That's where Deonte, a former stylist for both Diddy and Cassie, comes in. His testimony offered some surprising insights. According to him, he was the one who introduced Cassie to actor Michael B. Jordan. This wasn't just a passing encounter on a movie set, as many had thought. It seemed more deliberate. Deonte also shared that Cassie had been romantically involved with NFL player Andre Grant. To the defense, this is gold. They're using it to argue that Cassie had other relationships, that she wasn't cut off from the world or completely controlled by Diddy. These details are meant to weaken the claim that she was psychologically imprisoned, but it didn't stop there. Deonte also made some pointed remarks about Cassie's talent, or lack thereof, calling her a bad singer. The implication that she may not have made it in the music industry without Diddy's help. And when Deonte recalled Cassie joking about Jay-Z being taken, it fed into the defense's image of her as someone who might have used her relationship with Diddy strategically, as a way to boost her career, not just out of fear or manipulation. In the end, the defense wants jurors to see more than just a victim. They want them to consider whether Cassie had her own motivations, possibly fame, opportunity, or influence that kept her in the relationship. It's a subtle but powerful effort to introduce doubt and complicate the prosecution's narrative. And in a case this big, doubt might be all it takes. As the trial heats up and witness testimony continues to pile on, all eyes are now on one looming question. Will Diddy take the stand in his own defense? There's been plenty of speculation, especially after his lead attorney once hinted in a documentary that stopping Diddy from testifying might be a challenge. But while the idea is intriguing, most legal experts aren't buying it. Why? Because putting Diddy on the stand would be a massive gamble. The prosecution, led by the sharp and relentless Comey, would have the chance to grill him, and that kind of high-pressure cross-examination could quickly spiral. One slip-up, one contradiction, and things could get very messy very fast. It's not just about telling your side, it's about surviving the kind of scrutiny that can dismantle even the most polished story. And that's exactly why seasoned defense attorneys like Mark Agnifilo and Tom Garagos are expected to push hard to keep Diddy off the stand. It's a classic legal strategy. Protect the client by avoiding direct exposure. Instead, they're likely to tell Diddy's side of the story through witness testimony and a carefully crafted closing argument, one that weaves together his version of events without opening the door to unpredictable questioning. At this stage in the trial, every decision is critical. The defense is walking a tightrope, balancing how to present their case without triggering unnecessary risk. Meanwhile, the prosecution is stacking up their narrative of abuse, manipulation, and possibly something more organized and sinister. The stakes? Huge. The jury's job isn't just to decide whether Diddy behaved badly, it's to determine whether his actions rise to the level of criminal conduct or even organized racketeering. That distinction could decide everything. So while Diddy may be eager to speak his truth, the courtroom game is about strategy, and staying silent might be his smartest move yet.